Welcome to Comics with Dan. This is the Comics Commute, number 22. So I have a new holder for my phone. It clips on, or it suctions onto the window, so it's a little wobbly. So we'll see how this goes. I have to say I like the angle a little bit better, but it is a little wobbly. So the bumps in the road are going to be felt. But maybe that's just part of the authentic commute experience. You know, you don't go through your commute without some bumps in the road. I read a decent amount this week, not a ton. I read my pulls and then a couple of other things, so we'll talk about those. So for my pulls this week, I read Void Rivals, number 10, No One, number 9, and Absolute Power, Ground Zero. All of them were pretty good. It was a pretty good week for the pull list. I started reading through Action Comics. My local library has a handful of Superman trades. And so I kind of went back, not quite as far as I could, but fairly far, to Chuck Austin's Action Comics, which started with the Wrath of Gog. So I read that, and I'll talk about that a bit, as well as I read Something is Killing the Children, number 38, which I have a review of that, so I won't really touch on that. But it was a week installment of the series for sure. I read Mighty Morphin Power Rangers number 121, which was a big improvement over the last issue, in my opinion. I recognize I didn't get a lot of the context from the last issue, but this one still felt like it was following the story a bit better. And then I started reading Batman the Knight by Chip Zdarsky, so I'll touch on that a bit as well. So for my pulls this week, I'll be reading Absolute Power, number 1. I'll be reading Star Wars Inquisitors, number 1. I'll be reading Batman Scooby-Doo Mysteries, number 7, which, as I've said before, the best value on the shelves by far. And I'll be reading Space Ghost, number 3, which I actually got a chance to read that early, which I was excited about. So by the time you see this, hopefully my review will be up and live. So make sure you check that out as well. I'll link to do one of those link cards here. So starting with Void Rivals number 10, I should have done a separate review of this. I just haven't really had the time. But I'll just talk about it on here. Again, one of the nice things about having a sort of weekly show, I can just sort of talk about the things that I didn't get a chance to review individually. But Void Rivals number 10 was an absolute banger. It was the best issue of the series by far. So much has been building up to this moment. Discovering, I'm going to spoil some stuff here, so skip over this if you don't want to see. Building up to the fact that when Springer called the gems on Derek and Salila's foreheads, when he called them energon ports, my jaw hit the floor. I was floored. I was so excited, because that is not even something I even remotely considered to be a possibility. I was thinking, oh, it's just, character design, whatever. But he's been building up to this, and so now we figure out that the sacred ring, which Derek and Salila, they're sort of from, it basically creates energon. At least that's my understanding. So that's how the Transformers are going to tie into this. I also think that the G.I. Joe books are tying into this by sort of the Earth side of things, and their Duke's putting together a team to stop the Transformers. So I'm not entirely sure about that. But no, Void Rivals was awesome. Proximus escapes with 2 missing limbs. So I am extremely interested to see what's going on with him. He's obviously going to be fine. They've spent basically 2.25 issues building up Proximus. They aren't going to kill him off after doing all that building. Plus, there's so much more we still need to know about him. So I'd be very surprised if he's gone. But yeah, I think I'm going to need to go back and reread all these Void Rivals issues, because I just want to see if there's anything that I've missed, just to kind of make sure to see where Kirkman's going with this next. I mean, he's just a genius. I mean, the books that he writes. I mean, The Walking Dead, Invincible. I mean, he's just, and now Void Rivals. I mean, this is going to be up there with him. So I'm hyped for where this is going. If you haven't been reading Void Rivals, do it. Go get Void Rivals. It's fantastic. Between that and Transformers, it's just amazing. I read No One #9, which again was another banger of an issue. This was the penultimate issue of the 10-issue series, and we finally have some confirmation as to who Richard Rowe is, which again, spoilers. So it seems that Aaron has been Richard Rowe this whole time. They are taking us for a trip. They basically threw a bunch of stuff at us, causing us to question whether or not it was actually Aaron, even though they said it right at the beginning, and trying to throw us off the trail. And it was just him all along, it seems. We see the absolute bloody aftermath of Prop 87 being signed. There's an awesome panel of No One with his helmet off, but you can't see who he is, overlooking the riots going on, and it's just crazy. It's such a good book. The podcast this month was well done. It was a little more. It was a good performance, and I'll say that. But to me, it didn't add quite as much to the plot. Although what it did do is it showed that Alana Page, even after getting almost gunned down by Kenneth Chbosky, still is in favor of Prop 87, which is wild to me. So it's just that was pretty crazy. So yeah, No One #9 will be seeing the last issue of that coming up here. So excited to see how that one concludes. And on Twitter, Kyle Higgins had replied to one of my tweets and had said that the dates on the book, I'd noticed that me and I think a few other people had noticed that the dates hadn't changed even with the delays, and Kyle says that it's because it's important that each book takes place when it does, which I think is interesting. He said everything's going to be revealed in issue 10, so issue 10 is probably going to be just insane. So if you haven't been reading that, get the trade when that comes out, and it should be a good value. It'll be 10 issues, and I think I saw that it's not, I mean, it might be like $25, so that's pretty good value. And so then make sure you listen to the podcast along with it. I see people complaining like I shouldn't have to listen to a podcast. It's like, okay, then don't read the book. but this is to a certain extent, you have to respect the way that the artist wants you to take in the art. You know, you can formulate your own opinions on it and look at it how you want to, right? And everyone, you know, can decide whether they like it or not. But if this team is putting together a comic that you need to listen to a podcast along with, then that's the way that you should do it if you want to experience it in its fullest. So personally, I think it's awesome that the podcast is there. So but yeah, No One Number 9, really, really good this week. Absolute Power Ground Zero was pretty good. I mean, it's a prelude book. I do get kind of tired of these sort of prelude books that they get people to buy, like me, because I want to be all in on this event. And it's like, I know it's a prologue, and they know, and they say it, and I buy it for above the cover price of a regular comic, and I'm always bummed out at how incomplete it feels. And that's just the way that these books are. I said something similar about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Alpha. So it's just the way that the books are. But it's just kind of a bummer to pay $6-7 for a essentially a prelude to another book. But it was a good issue. The three stories were a story where you see Dreamer and Jay Nakamura interacting, and I hadn't read any interactions between them before, but I guess that they were friends, and now Jay's figuring out that Dreamer has had some sort of hand in his parents' death or kidnapping, or I don't know if they died or not. But it was pretty well written. I mean, we'll see where that goes. I'm interested to follow that storyline. I have never been interested in Jay Nakamura before, and now I'm a little bit interested, so there's that. The Batman story was pretty interesting. I'm a little done with the Batman of Zur-En-Arrh. It's been going on a little long. I'm kind of tired of it. So, I don't know. We'll see how that goes, I guess. But, I mean, it's essentially a lead up to what's going to happen in Absolute Power. But the Brainiac Queen story was really cool. And by cool, I mean, like, I can't believe that Amanda Waller would do this. So, Amanda Waller, like, links up to the Brainiac Queen in this simulation and spends literally an entire lifetime with the Brainiac Queen, caring for her, all so that she will be able to manipulate her in real life. That's insane. And while I don't love Amanda Waller as this giant, huge villain, because she's more of she'll do the unconventional things to get the job done type of person, but isn't inherently bad. At least that's how her character has been in the past, right? But I think that this is next level manipulation, and nobody does manipulation like Amanda Waller. So that was really cool. And again, by cool, I mean awful. So Absolute Power Ground Zero was pretty good. I'm excited to see where Absolute Power goes this week. I read Superman, The Wrath of Gog, which is the first part of an Action Comics run by Chuck Austin. It was not good. League of Comic Geeks didn't have it rated very highly. I ended up giving it 2.5 stars. It was really just not good. The art by Ivan Reis was fantastic. I mean, he's a great artist. So the 2.5 stars I gave it were for the art. But the story, I mean, Superman's really snarky and like sarcastic and cocky. And on one hand, if you can build into a story a Superman like that, perhaps he's a younger Superman and learns his lesson to not be that way, that sort of thing. Like, okay, yeah, like I can get behind that. But the way that Austin wrote him was like that this is how he is. And like, obviously Superman's not perfect, and so even like with some of the jokes he was making, just, I mean, kind of dumb, funny jokes. I mean, they're not hilarious, but they're okay. And so he's joking around and like bantering and quipping and all this stuff that you normally see from like Dick Grayson or Spider-Man or something. So it felt a little out of place, but I'm like, okay, like that's okay. But then he says things like, he refers to, I think at one point he refers to them as puny humans. He says something about, you puny humans are so fragile. Well, I'm not a big, this person's out of character type of person. But because I think that you should be able to sort of craft a character to fit into your story as long as you're not abandoning some of the core facets of their character. But that is Superman abandoning one of the core facets of his character, and that is protecting the innocent. Calling humans small and puny is not what Superman would do in any scenario. So I didn't like that. On top of that, the Gog as a villain, I mean, maybe I plan on reading, this was The Wrath of Gog. I forget what the next one's called, but it has to do with Gog. He was really bland in this. He was just this guy that showed up, and I realized that he is in one way or another related to Kingdom Come, because Gog and Magog and all that stuff. But yeah, I don't know. It was not good. Thankfully it was a pretty short and easy read. On top of that, the entire last chapter is essentially Lana Lang trying to convince Superman. She says, I'm not trying to convince you to leave Lois and be with me, but is sitting here talking about how Lois isn't here for you. Lois isn't here for you. And it's just like, it was, I didn't like it. It wasn't good. I didn't like it at all. However, though, I started reading Batman the Knight, and this is I already didn't care too much for Zdarsky's Batman run, but if I had read this before, I would be even more upset, because this is an awesome Batman story. The premise of it is just that time period between when Bruce's parents die and when he actually becomes Batman, all that training that he does. So it kind of goes around and shows who he learned from and all that stuff. And it's an awesome story, and it's a beautiful book. The art's awesome. And so, yeah, it's a fantastic book. I'm really bummed that his Batman run isn't more in this vein. I realize it's a prequel story, so it's not like he can do the exact same thing. But in terms of just quality, this is just so much better than his Batman run. So, but it's awesome. I'm excited to finish that up, and I'll talk more about it next week. I'll be reading. I've already talked about how I'm excited to read Absolute Power, and when I was talking about Ground Zero, so that one's exciting. Star Wars Inquisitors #1. I just really, he's not going to be an issue #1. I'm tampering my expectations, but I really want Cal Kestis to show up in this book, even if it's like, I think it'd be really cool if the last issue of this series ends with the beginning of Jedi Fallen Order. I think that would just be awesome, and then we can possibly see some Cal Kestis stories in the comics, which would be instant pulls for me because I love Jedi Fallen Order. So Star Wars Inquisitors #1, really excited for that. The Batman Scooby-Doo Mysteries #7, again, like I said, at $2.99, it's the best value book because it's genuinely good each month. So, and it's like half the price of some of these books. So, I love that book. It's awesome. I don't know who's writing this month's, but for the most part, it's been pretty awesome. So I don't see there being an issue. And then Space Ghost #3, like I said in the intro, I will hopefully have a review up for Space Ghost #3 by the time you see this. I got to read it early, so I'm excited about that. So that's going to be a good one. I think that's all I had. So I'm also planning on reading Volume 2 of Philip Kennedy Johnson's Hulk run, which I just got from the library, so I'm excited for that. But then, now that is all I had. So I ran out of time on my commute, so I had to finish this up here. The trivia question last week was which character led Lex Luthor into the Arctic to find the source of the Black Lantern energy ring? And the answer was Slade Wilson, or Deathstroke. The trivia question this week is, what is the name of the individual that trains alongside Bruce Wayne in the beginning of Batman the Knight? Make sure you enter that into the spot on the website, and you'll be entered to win a copy of New Mutants #87 for every correct answer that you get from now until the end of July. Make sure you like the video, make sure that you subscribe, check out these other videos here, and thank you for watching.